There is no greater love than that of a parent for their child, but with that comes an equal and opposite downside, especially when your parent is a Formula F1 driver who wants their child to follow in their footsteps. Oh, the humanity. This gets really techie because we know already, having had perfect information about the relationship between Max Verstappen and his father, that relationship was filled with travails and toil. Pushy parent any? Pseudo AB any? Some may say, of course it was. You've seen in real time. You only need to go and look at 2021 and see post Jeddah, the qualifying lap that got seized from Max Verstappen by virtue of an uncharacteristic unforced error in Sector 3. One of the go-tiest Sector 1 and Sector 2 that you will ever see. Nobody can tell me, therefore, having seen Sector 1 and Sector 2 going into the final turn, that Maximilian Verstappen was 2/10 up on his rival, and again, one of the go-tos that you've ever seen in Sir Lewis Hamilton. Nobody can tell me that Maximilian Verstappen can't handle himself pressure. Why? Because only after the mistake, after the time when Max yeets it into the barrier on the final turn at Jeddah, you can see what Max Verstappen does and how he reacts. Therefore, that for me is pressure epitomised. That tells you all you need to know about the relationship and the pressure therein that Maximilian Verstappen had to lift and contend with as a budding F1 driver coming up through the feeder formula. Max Verstappen does, Jos Verstappen, even father of Max, does one of these, slams everything on the table, so furious with rage at the mistake that he thought his son had undertaken, that could potentially cost him his maiden championship. Therein lies the optics, the pictorial representative of the pressure that Max Verstappen, some say soon to be 4-time champion, had to contend with. Pierre Gasly, back in 2022, had this to say, and again, this is first-hand evidence. Pierre Gasly, having raced with Max Verstappen coming up in the feeder formula, this is what he had to say about an incident after a race that Messrs Gasly and Verstappen took part in. Gasly says, I won that race and Max Verstappen finished second behind me. Second, not third or fourth, not last, second. But this again speaks to the expectation that father of Max, Jos Verstappen, Formula 1 driver, great friend of the Reagan Meister, the Red Baron that was Michael Schumacher, the expectations that he had of his son. Pierre Gasly continues, came home and Max's father, Jos, went absolutely berserk. He was shouting at him in Dutch and started to insult him in English. I'm not even going to say the words. He was telling him to F off. The words that came out of Jos Verstappen's mouth weren't very nice. He then takes Max's helmet, he weighs it in, takes it and then throws it at him and says, no, you're not even coming back to the tent. You're not even capable of winning one of your heats, says Jos Verstappen to Max. So pressure is on, continues Pierre Gasly. You can see it was extreme pressure, race after race after race. This is what Max Verstappen had to contend with. And again, this is the gift and the curse as far as Max Verstappen's coming to prominence. If you have to deal with that pressure day in, day out, the pressure given to you on your not insubstantial child shoulders, by the way, if that's what you have to contend with day in, day out, race in, race out from a very young age, then surely pressure busts pipes, right? When you get to Formula 1, nobody can tell you anything about pressure because those are the very murky waters in which you've been wading all your life, if indeed you are Max Verstappen's son of Jos. And talking about pressure, Max Verstappen had this to say very recently when talking about racing at his home race. And again, all of this I recount under the umbrella term of how to contend and deal with pressure in real time. Max Verstappen said this about racing at the Dutch Grand Prix at Zandvoort, that pressure, Max says, quote, "I wouldn't wish that on anyone." And again, this is a quote taken from his Viaplay documentary Off the Beaten Track. The success, of course, yeah, that's cool, but the pressure, it's a little bit different. Everybody does always expect something from you there. In itself, it's not a big problem. As long as it all goes well, of course, it's fine. And this is why you hear and see some of the behaviour from Max Verstappen if we are connecting the dots. Those, of course, those expletives and outbursts are indeed a function of what comes with the disappointment. Again, the pressure of your home crowd, the pressure that comes with your father and has come from your father historically, of course, if past is prologue. And I say all this to say this. I think we judge this and assess this in the context of what's happened recently. Expletive gate. Max Verstappen no longer is a child. He is a man and has had to contend with being told what to do, what to say, how to behave, that he wasn't good enough all his life. Now, however, he's a 3, soon to be 4-time champion, some say. Nobody's going to tell Max Verstappen what to do, how to behave, what words to use, whether his verbiage and his syntax is in line with the International Sporting Code of Conduct or the regs. He cares not for that. Why? Because he's had to deal with it all his flipping life. Why would he endure that a second longer than necessary if that's been the sum total of his experience hitherto? No chance. I agree with Maximilian Verstappen. Some say that he's distanced himself from his father, but yet and still there is that link. How do we know? When it was peak Christian Horner allegation gate and Mohammed bin Salman implored one Maximilian Verstappen to come out and speak up unequivocally for Christian Horner, by default therefore taking a position fundamentally diametrically opposed from that of his father. Maximilian politely declined, saying thus, "I will never ever go against my father. That's my dad. Whatever's come before, gone on in the most recent past is the most recent past. Yet and still, that's my father, and you will never see or hear me come out and speak out against him." This is what loyalty looks like. And again, I say all this to say this. The FIA are talking about Maximilian Verstappen imposing this punishment on him. Don't do it. Don't drive this chap away. There is a fella currently in Formula One, capable, whose talents are the breadth and depth of his talents even are sufficient to take Formula One back to the mountaintop. And I'm talking long after Sir Lewis Hamilton has retired. That fella has a name, ladies and gentlemen, and that fella's name is Maximilian Verstappen. Understand this, therefore, FIA, and act accordingly. If past his prologue, Maximilian Verstappen's he's not going to be willing to take these punitive measures, and he shouldn't be, because of what's gone on, because of his relationship, what he's overcome as far as being the son of Jos, per Pierre Gasly's account, per what we've seen at Jeddah in 2021. Now, Maximilian Verstappen isn't going to have similar behaviour nor imperative from Mohammed bin Salman, head of the FIA, man who can't even do his job nor complete for his remit. Now you're going to try and expand that into parenting one Maximilian Verstappen, man who gets paid $50 million a year, telling him who to be, how to talk, what to say and what not to say. Maximilian Verstappen will not have that. Listen, FIA, do not push this dude away. He can carry F1 back to the mountaintop almost single-handedly, long after Sir Lewis Hamilton and Fernando El Planet Alonso have gone to pastures anew into retirement. Understand this, therefore, FIA, and act accordingly, because the sport of F1 is dependent on sound decision making here on in. Those, some say, who don't hear, however, as far as FIA are concerned, must feel. But I digress.